Hartwell's got a lot of deep, clear water, and it's really good for deep, clear water. That's where it originated, in California, and it's a really good way to catch fish in dirty water. People don't realize it, but one thing that I like to do is rig it weedless. Just put a straight shank hook in it. It doesn't matter. That's one thing I was going to talk about. Is drop shotting is not only for spinning rods, real light line. It's also good for bait casters, heavy flipping cover. You know, a lot of people think you want to flip laydowns, you got to flip a jig or a tube or craw or something. That's not always true. One of my favorite ways to catch shallow fish is with a drop shot. And what I'll do is I'll make my leader about that long. Instead of throwing a shaky head, throw a really short leader drop shot, and you catch fish that a lot of people miss, because sometimes when you're pitching a drop shot at cover, instead of that worm sitting there bouncing off the bottom like that, it's sitting right in front of their face. And if they're in real shallow water, just make your leader shallower. And so one thing that I like to do is use it on a bait caster, 15-pound line. Even if I'm flipping it, I won't really go heavier than 15. You can. I know guys that flip it in heavy matted grass, and they'll use 20, 25-pound line with it. But a lot of guys like to use it open hook. They'll just nose hook the bait, the worm right through the front. But one thing, I hardly ever rig it like that. And one reason is because a lot of these lakes, I know Hartwell's this way, has lots of brush piles. And you can't get a drop shot in a brush pile without getting it hung up if you got an open hook. So that's one reason I like to rig it weedless. Another reason I like to rig it weedless is I can cast it. Instead of always having to, you know, a lot of guys, they think drop shot is only for trolling around, seeing them on your graph, which that's an awesome way to catch them. One of my roommates, Cody Myers, fishing today. He was in the top 10. He is catching them all on a drop shot.
That's what I was going to say. It seems like this could be a lot of them on drop shot.
Right. And he's actually trolling around out in 30 foot of water, catching them off his graph. He's seeing every fish he's catching, trolling around out there. They're not on anything. They're just swimming around, and he said they may be 10 feet down, they may be 20 feet down, they may be 5 feet off the bottom. He's just trolling around out there. He won't even make a cast. He just holds his rod, trolls around until he sees one, then he reverses his trolling motor and backs up, drops it right down on the fish, and that's how he's catching it. He's one of the best in the world at it. And he's taught me a lot about drop shotting. I'm nowhere near the best at it, but it's an awesome way to catch fish. And one way you can catch them casting it is, you know, a lot of people really like a shaky head. The shaky head is a good way to catch fish, it really is. But you catch a lot of fish behind guys using a drop shot. You can use, I know a lot of guys that use 4-pound tests and catch just as many. I know a guy that caught a 13-pounder on 6-pound test on a drop shot. So it's not only for light line, you can also use it on big line. But this is what I like to do. I like to rig it weedless. And depending on how far, if the fish are suspended, you know, 10 feet off the bottom, I'll use a longer leader, up to 2 foot, you know, up here, and even sometimes further up. A lot of times on breaking fish, you catch them on a drop shot, putting like a 5-foot leader on it. People don't do it over here, but up north in Michigan and St. Clair and Erie and those northern lakes like that, they'll catch those big smallmouth that are actually schooling close to the surface on a drop shot with like a 6-foot leader on it. And put a big giant fluke on there and catch them that way. But the tackle that I like to use for a drop shot on light line and spinning rod is a good, soft, medium action rod. You can use a 6'6", 7-foot. I like a 7'3". This is a 7'1" right here, and I use this rod around docks. It's a little shorter rod. You can pitch it around the docks. I know a couple guys that can even skip a drop shot, believe it or not. And it's not easy to do. I'm still learning how to do it, but a good soft action rod, you want enough backbone. That way, when you get those big fish, you can pull them out of brush piles, like I said, because I'll throw this in brush piles. I'll get up there close where I can see a brush pile, pitch it right in it, just like I would a jig on 15-pound test. But you have to have the right rod, and you have to have a good drag to fight